There's plenty of discussion today about education. Politicians, commentators, the media, everyone's talking about education. Most of that discussion seems to be about what we need to do to get higher test scores so that we can be seen to be competing well against the rest of the world. We teach students math and science and history, and yet very few of them will ever become mathematicians, scientists, or historians. Now, I'm not saying that those subjects aren't important, but what I am saying is that every single one of those students will live a life, and yet we teach them nothing about it. No one starts out in life with a dream that eventually they're going to grow up to be broke, fat, or divorced. And yet, financial stress, obesity, and relationship breakdowns are at epidemic proportions. Everywhere we look, we can see examples of lives out of control, of people who don't understand why and who don't believe they can do anything about it. Now, why would we think anything else? We don't teach students how life works, why it works that way, what they can do to take control of it, or how they can figure out who they are as individuals so that they can create a life that best suits their own unique strengths, capabilities, and values. Now, before I go on, I'll make it clear, I'm not some new age self-help guru. In fact, as my wife keeps reminding me, I'm simply a grumpy old man. But as a grumpy old man, I believe that there are 4 simple principles that can prepare students and give them a basic framework for life so that they can understand why things turn out as they do and what they can do about it. These 4 principles are motion, direction, alternation, and volition. Now, during our school years, we would have all heard about a guy named Isaac Newton. Isaac's greatest hit was the law of gravity. But Isaac had another hit, and that was the law of motion. Motion is the first principle that we need to understand. A body at rest tends to stay at rest. So you'll notice that this ball is sat here. It hasn't run off or floated away. A body in motion tends to stay in motion at the same speed and in the same direction unless acted upon by another force. So if I was to say, roll this ball towards you, we all know that all things being equal, it will roll in a straight line at the speed and in the direction that I rolled it. Now, we know that the ball is going to slow down because gravity, one of those other forces, is causing friction with the floor. In deep space, the ball would theoretically go on forever. So we're all in motion, the motion through space, but we're also in motion through time. Our lives are made up of about 30,000 days. That's the average number of days between when we're born and when we die. 21, we've used about a quarter of those days. At 40, we're almost to the halfway mark, and by the time we're 60, we're almost 3/4 of the way through our lives. Now, motion, the first principle, demands a direction. If you're in motion, you have to be going somewhere. So, as each day passes, we're either moving towards the things that we want in life or away from them. We're moving towards financial well-being or away from them. Toward good health or away from them. Toward quality relationships or away from them. Whatever direction we're moving in our lives, if it's not toward what we want in our lives, then it's the wrong direction. Now, a lot of people would say that this sort of stuff is a parent's job, but a lot of parents don't know. You can't teach what you never learned. And so, in many households today, it's simply a case of the blind leading the blind. So, we're all in motion and we're all heading somewhere. The first principle, motion, requires the direction. Alternation will sometimes intrude to make sure that we don't get where we're trying to. It'll help us or hinder us. Alternation is one of those other forces that the law of motion talks about. Alternation is the changing back and forth, or alternating, between one thing or state and another. In Chinese philosophy, it's known as yin and yang. Ancient Greeks called it the unity of opposites. Alternation are the constant cycles that everything in life goes through. Everything operates in cycles. Some cycles are consistent, day and night, summer and winter. Some cycles aren't, floods and droughts, sunny days and rainy days. As far as we're concerned, we've all had days that have gone our way, and we've had days that haven't gone our way. We've had happy days and sad days. We've had good luck and bad luck. No one can go through life without their share of ups and downs. But some people will be able to handle those better than others. Some people will go through life's cycles and come out the other side better and stronger. Some won't. Some will seem to get stuck in their problems and never seem to be able to get out of them. What we tend to forget or fail to accept in this "it's all about me" world is that we aren't the center of the universe. The world doesn't revolve around us in our lives. The world isn't for us or against us. The world just is. We are a very small part of a very big picture. If something were to happen to us in this room today, there are 7 billion people in the world who would know nothing about it. The cycles that run through our lives are the same cycles that run through their lives as well. So, no one can escape the cycles of life, but some people can handle them better. Some people will get through those difficulties and some won't. And the difference between those people who can handle life's ups and downs well and those who can't is their understanding of the principle of volition. So, the first principle, motion, requires a direction. Sometimes the principle of alternation will intrude to either help us or hinder us in the direction we're trying to go. That's where volition comes in. Volition is the fourth principle we need to understand. And it's by far the most powerful principle impacting our lives. Put simply, volition is free will. It's the ability to make choices. And it's the quality of the choices that we make that will ultimately determine the outcome of our lives. We make thousands of choices every day. Some of them as simple as when to get up, what to wear, when to go to work. Others as complex as the choice of a career or a life partner. Choices are what differentiate our lives from this ball. If I was to roll this ball along the floor and it happened to bump into something, the ball would be forced to change direction. Because the ball has no volition, it can't choose to go around the obstacle. We have volition. We can make choices. When obstacles appear in our lives, we can choose to take a path that avoids them or that minimizes their impact. We can choose the direction that we want to move in life. This ball can't. Now, make no mistake, you can't go through life and avoid making decisions. This is what I call the volition conundrum. While we all have the ability to choose, we don't have the choice not to choose. At every decision point in our lives, a choice is made. It's either a passive choice or an active choice. That's the conundrum. Let's say that you can't make up your mind whether you want to ask that person you like out on a date, or apply for that new job, or start that exercise program. The result of not deciding is the same as deciding not to. I think Martin Heidegger, the German philosopher, put the power of volition best when he said, "Every man is born as many men and dies as a single one." If we think of this tree as a metaphor for the journey through our life, at birth we have all of those branches and twigs that we can choose from. All of those branches and twigs represent choices that we can make and directions that we can take. In our first few years of life, as we're traveling up through the trunk, there aren't any branches to choose from because we're too young. Our parents make the choices for us. The first branches start appearing in our tree of life during our school years. Each branch that we choose, each choice we make, leads to other branches to choose from. Each of those branches will take us into another part of the tree and a different set of future branches to choose from. The further we travel along our journey through life, the fewer branches we'll have to choose from in the future, which is why the choices we make each and every day are so important. Eventually, we'll get to the end of our journey through life, and we'll be able to look back and see the path that our choices took us through this metaphorical tree of life. of the thousands of different branches that we could have taken, we will have chosen only one. There is no single path that's the right path for everyone. There's only the path that's the right one for you. We need to begin thinking of the choices that we make in life as possibility filters. The choices that we make in the present will either narrow or expand our opportunities for choices in the future. Let's just say in my infinite wisdom, I decided to tattoo the word idiot in great big letters right here in the middle of my forehead. I think we could probably all agree that that would narrow the opportunities that I would have for choices in the future. I couldn't make it as perhaps a politician or a lawyer, which is why none of them do it, even though arguably some of them probably should. So, if the choices that we make in life are what ultimately determine the direction our lives take, then what is it that drives those choices? Well, it's our value system. Each of us have a unique value system. Our values are the foundation upon which all of our beliefs rest. Our values give meaning to the events that occur in our lives. That meaning is what creates the feelings that we attach to those events, and thus how we think about them. Our values are what make us who we are. Who we are drives how we think and the choices that we make. Now, I didn't learn anything about motion, direction, alternation, or volition in school. I had to figure it out for myself, and to be honest with you, in most cases, I had to learn it the hard way. I know that I could have saved myself a great deal of time and effort if someone had given me an understanding of these 4 principles and how they work earlier in my life. And I believe that school is the best place for that process to start. Life is a journey. It is the most important journey any of us will ever take. So we need to make sure that we choose the things in our life that are right for us. Now, it's up to us to give the next generation a head start on creating better lives for themselves. The question that I'd like to leave you with is, what can we do to make these 4 principles part of the educational process for the next generation? I don't know, but the ball's in your court.